Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. So, when I finished doing the first part of the Druid cabin from our D&D campaign in the big version of this little one, I noticed something a little bit of a pain. As I took the masking tape off, because I was doing other drawings, it's done a little bit of damage on the paper itself, and it did all the way around. So, that was the first issue. Second issue is I noticed I was doing the 003, the skinny pen. And even though I really enjoyed doing it, it was a little bit hard to see on camera. So, because of the damage and because of the very light drawing, I've done another one. So this one is a 005, but I thought we'd go and give him a go today, see how we do. So we're going to carry on. It's a little bit less detailed, I think, but also it feels a bit more outlined and a little bit easier to see. I've changed his face as well, and I've changed a few little bits. I took his shirt off because, he's warm, he's sort of barbarian-esque, and but the rest of the stuff I've kept. I've also changed one little thing. He did get braces. The braces give +1 to all saving throws. Again, I think this was a very kind thing given by the DM because I kept losing concentration on just about everything. So if I line it up about there, right, let's do some drawing. So because it's a slightly bigger pen, I can do a little bit sketchier. And I still think it looks kind of cool. So with that, it should be a little bit quicker than the ones before. Not that, speed is necessary, but the last one was about 40 minutes and I didn't really get that much made. So I'll see how we do. And if I get any feedback about you prefer the thinner pen drawing, then I can always draw another one. I'm sort of on the fence, if I'm honest, so this is why I'm asking. Usually I kind of just do what I fancy, but on this occasion, if you have any thoughts, do give me a shout, and we can sort of have it more of a community-led piece of work, piece of drawing. Yeah, we're going to start off the video well. Piece of drawing. Anyway, so as we said, barbarian-esque. Lots of fur, lots of wraps, but also sort of slowly develop it into a druid character. So I thought that would be kind of cool if we sort of do the stages of him. And I think the stages of the characters will change in general because, they're going through a story. Things change, characters change, people change, players change, So I thought that'd be cool if we represent that and maybe a series of drawings for the party because I just think that's really interesting if we have that, sort of that progress. Again, the skulls, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I'm just sort of making them up as I go along, just sort of more interested about the shape that they have rather than, anatomically correct skulls and creatures. Then again, it's a fantasy world, so who knows? Yeah, a couple of little things that I'm a little bit sad about losing in the original drawing. Actually, put that there so we know what we're looking for here. Put them down here. There we go. Is the detail on the hands. I really like the hands, and even though the 005s are really good, I feel like they lose ever so slightly a little bit of that detail, that softness, that I will get the word eventually, promise. Yeah. No, maybe I won't. Never mind. So yeah, it's lots of little scratches and scars. I imagine when Kevin changes into his wild shape form, he comes back, with sort of the bruises and the strain of the animal that he came back from. I think that's kind of cool, rather than just, you know, he comes back, magical heals, and job done. You know, I like a little bit of difficulty for the character. Well, that sounds a bit mean, didn't it? Just joking, Kev. We love you, mate. Right, and then do some more fur, and maybe some sort of like teeth. Yeah, big teeth here. It's not too much detail. I have an issue about sometimes over detailing things, and then you have very difficult drawing to sort of navigate. You know, I'm trying to sort of learn how to not overcomplicate drawings and have focal points. So I guess a focal point would be here-ish. Don't know. I quite like. Doesn't matter. But yeah. So I need to sort of still learning to draw. Probably will always be learning to draw. Yeah. So I need to think about focal points. Now with that out of the way, has everyone got their cup of tea or their coffee? Because, you know, it's very important work. How's everyone's week going? Everyone having a good week? Or a stressful week? Hopefully it's not too stressful. Alright. Do a little rope. Wrap around there. I think this is why I like drawing like druids and barbarians alike. Just have that wonderful feralness to them, and you know, you can kind of put anything. You can put bones and all sorts of details that you can't excuse me, that you can't put in other characters. Well, I suppose you could, but for a better artist probably could figure it out. But when I draw knights or something like that, I always find myself sort of sticking to the you know, original formula: shield, armor, chainmail. Oh yeah, we haven't done a chainmail drawing yet. I think some people absolutely detest drawing chainmail, but I really enjoy it. Maybe like sadistically, you know, drawing hundreds of little rings intertwined. I don't think I'll put that on a video. I feel like that might be less than enjoyable to watch. Me quietly cursing myself for doing it again. I do wonder as well with this drawing, we probably need to do actual inking. And what I mean by that is the sort of the darkening. So all these bits can be darkened. This can be darkened. Under his neck can be darkened. Or do I do it with pencil at the end? Because I do like the mix of pencil and pen. Don't really see that many artists doing that. So this one's like another like fur pelt, because in the story of where Kevin was, he was in the woods of Alaki. I think I'm saying it right. And he was sort of, you know, gathering pelts and all sorts to sell. That was sort of his trade, which is sort of against what Druid is, but you know, like I said, it's this development of the character. Yeah. So eventually, I wonder if he'll, you know, become kinder to animals. I mean, he is kind to animals. I mean, well, not in the sense that he used to hunt them, which is not particularly kind, is it? But yeah, I wonder if he'll change in a big way. I hope so. So it is fun, as I said before, playing with a bit of a lunatic, you know. and older Kevin, where I spoke about in the past, he was very, very strange chap, very old, very, very traditional druid. So in a strange way, I've already kind of got what the plan is for him, Isn't that weird? Sort of playing in reverse. Suppose this is almost like a knee pad to this bit. And put a little bit of fur on there as well. Here's the knee. And again, if anyone's wondering what references I'm using, I'm not using any references. I mean, if I was going for a drawing that I needed that realism, I might be tempted to use some references, but most of the time I'm just very happy making up as I go along, as you can see from the terrible skull drawings. Yep, I'm going to do a few little stitches there, holding this skull in place, and then, I don't know what's going on here, I just thought some like stitching, like ropes or twine, or whatever he can get his hands on to create these structures for his clothing. And I guess, in a way, it's him making his own armor, using the hide, using bone, instead of, just going to the shop, buying some armor. I've always liked characters that, take the harder route. I think that's more enjoyable role-playing wise, I need some sort of shield. I think, I can't remember if it was this campaign or not, but I needed a shield, so I asked the DM, I was saying, how long would it take for me to find something that I could use as a shield? And they were like, just go into the woods and, roll a couple of insight checks and nature checks and see how you do. And in the end, found a nice shield that I could use, but we put like an implement on it. So if I ever got a critical hit on me, the shield would break, which I think is really cool. Even though it's, I spent a couple of hours looking for that perfect piece of wood, and obviously I could have spent that just going to the shop and 5 gold or whatever it is. But instead I thought, isn't that a cool idea? Just, I'll go and find one, even if it is not the best shield of all time. But it's a bit different. So we'll leave that there for a second. Yeah, it's doing alright, isn't it? So I'd love to know your thoughts. But, did you prefer the original version, Kevin, or do you prefer Kevin 2.0? Well, he's not really 2.0, is he? He's 005. Yeah, we'll call that 005, 003. Mini one. Sorry, talking absolute nonsense. Not that it's any different from any other time. So yeah, the reason behind this drawing, if you haven't seen the first part, which I'll link at the end of this video if I remember. Probably won't. Probably be that ridiculous frog drawing again, which I must admit, I know a lot of people didn't like, but I love it. Right, I'm going to put some like little wooden charms on the bottom of his, I don't know what you call it, loincloth? No, that can't be it. It's Tarzan. I don't know. The barbarian-esque thing that they always wear. That thing. What is that called? I mean, I know playing tabletop RPGs, it's unarmored defense, which I think is really cool. I think monks get that as well, so if they're not wearing any armor, they get armored. Something like that. I do wonder, all these little creatures I'm drawing, you know, where did he find them? You know. Oh, another thing. So, because Kevin is not quite the usual druid, instead of just being able to wild shape, the DM and myself put together this really interesting mechanic where for him to change into anything, he must have slayed it in a fight beforehand. And that's led to some really interesting situations. And then once he defeats the creature, he gets this little wooden token, like an effigy. And they're only small, they're sort of like little dark wooden, sort of walnut looking statues of his adversary. And that's how he transforms. He like holds it, and it's sort of more of a difficult transformation. It's not, you know, quiet and, you know, natural for him. It's still very much not a painful transformation, but certainly not a natural feeling one for him. We got like a little shell, another little shell. Maybe he went to the beach. Can you imagine Kevin at the beach, just putting his feet up, enjoy the sun and the surf, you know? I can imagine building a sandcastle, right? Seems like that kind of dude that would be. Get to the beach, put his serious face on and be like, let's do it. Let's build the greatest sandcastle of all time. I guess I was writing about that video the other week where I was saying that our characters that we play are a little bit like us. Because that's exactly what I'd do. I'd be like, right, it's castle building time, man. There's like a little bit of fur. No, it looks like more hair, doesn't it? I'm not really sure. It looks very similar to his hair. Try not to think about it. Oh, sorry. Just kicked something underneath my desk. Sorry if that was really loud. Right, so need to start sort of wrapping this up. I am wrapping this up in terms of finishing off, because I don't want it to be too long. I got work in a bit anyway. Thought I'd just do a cheeky little video before wander off to work. Nice. And then maybe a nice big stitch there. Another one underneath. Another one there. These look like proper stitches, so using his ability to sew and stitch to his advantage. Another interesting little mechanic that the DM sort of brought into the game, well, our campaign, is the importance of food. So we always need to eat, and that's why Kevin's first feat, his feat, FE80, was to have the chef one, which is it's just so role-playing. It's just wonderful because, you know, he's always running around with stew, I guess, in his pockets, and it's just really cool that, you know, sometimes we've been in situations and, you know, someone's hungry and I'm like, oh, I've got some stew, and it's actually helped for, a charisma check or something. Not that anyone should ever allow Kevin to do the charisma checks. He's a nightmare. I tend to say the wrong things, only sometimes on purpose because of role-playing reasons. The rest of the time it's just me. So yeah, we'll finish this one today. I will tidy up a little bit of pencil work, or tidy up from the pencil work is what I meant to say. Let me have a look. Oh yeah, so I do that. Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll be good. I was thinking for the bottom of these sort of like boot wrap things, because it's coming to the edge of the page, I'm thinking about just kind of leaving it like that. I think that would be quite cool, just have that space in between the characters and the end of the paper, because I won't be using masking tape again. I don't know why I did it. Never had a problem before. Bought new masking tape and everything. Peeled it away from the paper, as you should. But now I just left this scratchy, weird marks on the paper. It was a bit disappointing, but I think everything for a reason, right? And then the same for this one. And then what can we have underneath here? Maybe like some little straps holding a bone, some sort. I might just have that sort of fade off into the distance, the unknown of the drawing. And then maybe another one here, a little hole. And then have another bone here. Quite a weird warped bone there. I imagine some sort of gift from a hag or a witch. Actually, it does have a wand. Came about a wand the other day, and I can't remember what it does. I think it lets Kevin see those invisible once a day or something. I haven't used it yet because I tend to forget what I have. I know. I also feel sorry for the DM. Right. And yeah, a nice little charm there. Some little threads, and we'll call that a day, shall we? How can you see all that? There we go. So, there we have it. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to get it all in frame. There we go. So, part 2, Kevin, done. So next we'll be working up what's going on here. So if you have any ideas, I was thinking of Titus, a wonderful dwarf played by a DM. He could come and either be sort of laying on the floor, after a few too many ales, or we could stay there handing out ale to everyone. I'm not sure. I do think someone said wonderful suggestion of having it on the floor, because I feel like that's, stereotypically, that's how I feel like a dwarf would be as well, enjoyed too much ale, pork scratchings, pickled onions at the end of a long day, even though he technically wasn't even in the fight, he was in prison. What a layabout. He didn't do anything wrong, by the way. In fact, I think we did it. Anyway, yeah, so let me know. So this will be our ranger up here on the bench. And I don't even know if it should be a bench. Maybe it should be bar stools around a circular table. Let me know. Oh, and I will put our DM in the middle. He'll be holding a book, throwing some dice, that sort of thing. Anyway, I've rambled more than enough. You all take care. Bye-bye.